Hey everybody, I know what you're thinking. Yes, Mom, I do need a haircut. Also, I'm responding to another comment. Someone commented last week and asked me to talk about, or maybe just 2 weeks ago, anyway, asked me to talk about languages that were geologically and culturally near to each other, but weren't related. And I knew exactly what I was going to talk about going into it. I'm very excited for this video. And I learned some things along the way. And I hope you all enjoy this. So here we're going to talk about weird neighbors. First off, I want to talk about the wording. They asked for languages that should be related because of geography, culture, and origin. Now, origin, essentially, if it's two languages from the same origin, they're going to be related. But I can cover the geography and the culture, and some of the origins are actually close to each other. But in general, I don't think I can find an instance of two languages coming from the same origin, but not being considered related to each other. To start, let's talk about the Uralic language family. The Uralic, is it Uralic or Uralic? I think it's the Ural Mountains, so I'm going to say Uralic. Their name for the mountains, that's about where they came from. The Uralic language family is essentially from the same-ish area as Indo-European, just some time apart. They live in Europe, mostly now, and they're pretty much completely surrounded by Indo-European language. But they're very different. I'm talking about languages like Hungarian, Estonian, Finnish, those are the big three. There's some over in Russia, and I think a few minority groups in Finland and Sweden, maybe Norway, are technically Uralic, but they're not related to the Indo-European neighbors that are right next to them. In spite of using the same alphabet, following the same religion, having a lot of the same history as far as imperialism and invasions from other peoples goes, but when you look at their languages, you see tons of differences. For example, Uralic languages are very, very agglutinative. They just throw endings on endings on endings, and you end up with sentence words, basically. They have vowel harmony, which is when a vowel in this word in the beginning of the sentence changes a vowel a few words down. So it'll completely change how that word is pronounced based on what vowel was used earlier, which is just, we would never think of that. There also is a lot of vocabulary differences, obviously. I mean, if there are two languages that are related, they should have some cognates, and there are no cognates between, other than borrowed words, between Uralic languages and Indo-European languages. Speaking of borrowed words, only about 21% of Hungarian words are actually Uralic, demonstrated to be not of any other origin but Uralic. About 20% of their words are Slavic, about 11% are Germanic, and about 9% are Turkic. The history of the Hungarian language would be a video in and of itself, and I'll probably do it sometime in the next few months, just because Hungarian's a very interesting language, and I would love to cover it. Okay, moving away from Europe, let's go to the Middle East. In fact, let's look at this border in specific between these three countries: Turkey, Iraq, and Iran. Now, in real life, Kurdish people live here, and they speak an Indo-European language, but these three countries speak languages from three different language families. Iraq has Arabic, Iran has Persian, and Turkey has Turkish, obviously, and that's a Turkic language. Now, these three countries in specific don't really have that big of a difference between each other culturally. They're all Muslim. They've all used the same alphabet. Well, Turkish now uses the Roman alphabet, but they used to all use the same alphabet. They've had a lot of the same cultural events happen in them, but linguistically, they couldn't be more different. We've talked about Afro-Asiatic and Indo-European already on the channel, so I'm not going to dig into the Persian and the Arabic, but to know that they're different. But also, looking at the Turkish, Turkic languages don't have any gender. They're also very, very agglutinative in a way that's very similar to Uralic. They have that vowel harmony like Uralic. Don't worry, people did used to say that Hungarian and Turkish were related, but they're not. I actually mentioned that in passing in my white supremacy and linguistics video. If you've seen that, I love that video. That's honestly my favorite video so far. And Turkic peoples don't even originate from around the same area as the Indo-Europeans or the Afro-Asiatic peoples. They originate from around northern China, around Mongolia, and then they migrated to the Middle East about the 5th century AD. So they're pretty new to the area, but just because of the history of the Middle East, the cultures between these three places are still pretty similar. And to finish off in our Eastern March, I'm going to talk about two languages that I thought were related until rather recently, Korean and Japanese. Because of China's influence on Korean and Japanese, they are both fairly similar cultures, as well as they used to use the same writing system-ish, using the Chinese Hangul or Kanji, depending on if you were Korean or Japanese, respectively. And, I don't think they were called Hangul in Korean. Anyway, they both used Chinese script, Chinese symbols. I'm going to correct myself. They didn't call it Hangul. That's what they call their modern script. Anyway, they were both Buddhist. Because of Japanese imperialism, there's Japanese influence on a lot of pieces of Korean culture, and that's been changed through time. But the point is, even their languages are very similar. They both have a complex system of honorifics, which are like, how to talk to other people in a polite way. I'm sure you've heard about how the Japanese do that. They both have the same number of vowels, basically. They both have the consonant vowel pattern for the most part in their languages, and their grammars are scary similar. If you look at that Wikipedia page I have linked for comparing Japanese and Korean, it's minute little things about like verb conjugations are the same. Minute little things about how they deal with certain types of noun cases are the same. It's nuts the way that all the similarities between the way that they're spoken. But when you boil it down, there's no cognates. Other than loan words, Korean and Japanese have completely different words for nearly everything. And when you have two countries from Eastern Asia and they have different words for rice, they're not related. Like, I'm out. All right, you had me sold in the first half, but come on. Thank you all for watching Linking. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day. Bye-bye.